Hey, LarkenRose here. So today, while Trump was out doing his dictator-style military parade, there were also lots and lots of protests. Actually, I don't even know what happened. I wasn't paying any attention. Lots of protests on No King's Day. So there's all these protests happening across the country in a way and in an organized fashion that there is exactly no way in hell that it was actually organic and natural. Now, that's not to say there weren't a bunch of people who, on their own, said, I don't like what Trump's doing. Hey, I hear there's a protest. Let's go to it. So I'm not saying everybody who was at the protests was fake. What I will say is the vast majority of them are absolute unprincipled freaking hypocrites. Because even though they're saying, we don't want a king, okay, me neither, good, so far so good, what do you want? A king that's called something else. None of you were complaining, the Democrats, none of you were complaining when King Biden was overseeing this ridiculously arbitrary authoritarian bullshit of shutting down the economy, shutting down businesses, putting people out of business permanently, ruining countless lives, locking people in their homes, trying to coerce people into getting this crappy injection, totally unnecessary and dangerous, trying to force people to wear the stupid masks that don't do any good. Did you object to any of that? Most of you didn't. Why? Because the problem is not that you don't want a king, it's that you don't want a king that you think isn't on your team. But if you think he's on your team, you will make all sorts of excuses for just as much authoritarian BS as what Trump is trying to do. Now, Trump's personality and demeanor is more openly just wannabe dictator, narcissistic control freak. Like he's kind of blatant and obvious about that. But if you're complaining about somebody's personality instead of what they do, what does that say about you? Well, we're protesting Jeffrey Dahmer. Weren't you saying nice things about Ted Bundy last week? Well, yeah, of course he is a serial killer too. But he's so nice and he's handsome and, he just comes across as such a swell guy in between murdering people. Okay, you're an idiot. And anybody who made excuses for Biden, that power-happy collectivist psycho, or Kamala, power-happy collectivist psycho, or Obama, or Clinton, or go back as far as you want, to now come out and say, we don't want a king. Yes, you do. You just don't want this king. Which makes you a complete hypocrite. See, I'm one of those weird people who actually doesn't want a king. I don't want that piece of crap Trump. And I don't want your piece of crap, Biden, or Kamala, or whoever the next clown's going to be coming out of the Democratic Party, and whatever clown's going to come out of the Republican Party yet. Because I believe in something called principles. The principle of freedom. And because I believe in principles, I don't complain that there's somebody in power who's using the power to violently dominate people in a way I don't like. But I would be okay with somebody using the violence of the state in a way I do like. That's not what I'm objecting to. I'm objecting to the existence of anybody who forces you to fund things you don't want to fund. Whether it's warmongering, a welfare state, war on drugs, whatever, go down the list. There's lots of stupid things government does. I don't want you to be forced to fund any of them. If you're not attacking and harming somebody else, I want you to be completely free. I don't want anybody, government or otherwise, initiating force against you. Because I believe in no masters and no slaves. If you're a Democrat, you don't at all. Nowhere close. You absolutely want masters. You keep making excuses for masters, and you can keep condemning and hating anybody who disobeys the masters you want to be on the throne. So when you come out and object to Trump, yeah, there's plenty to object to. He's a power-happy authoritarian bastard. But you're not the ones to do it because you cheered for the last power-happy authoritarian bastard. You made excuses for it. You hated the people who disobeyed. That was you. You frickin' did that. So to say now, no kings, shut up. You just don't like this king. In a heartbeat, if you would have your way, you would absolutely want to use government to force your will on the rest of the world by way of welfare, free this, free that, which comes from government robbing people, gun control, controlling this, that, or the other thing, having government tentacles regulating the crap out of everything, forcibly interfering with freedom of association, telling people who they have to hire, who they have to deal with, what they have to do. You absolutely cheer for that constantly. So to get into political philosophy very briefly, the concept of a king is one guy who by himself gets to say, everybody do what I say. I don't need anybody else's help. I don't need like a parliament and stuff. Just me. It's just me. I'm in charge. I rule the world. Do what I say, or I send the king's guards to beat you up. Now, that is very much how Trump thinks and functions. Yes, that's despicable. He's a horrible human being in every single way. Good. Good job objecting to that. What if instead of a king, you had a king and his twin brother? But we can't call two people a king, so they're going to call themselves the party, the committee, or some damn name. Now there's two people bossing you around and hurting you if you disobey. Is that okay? Is your complaint of no kings just that there's only one, but if there's two, we're good? Then it's okay, as long as there's two tyrants? No, I can hear you all saying, no, we don't want two tyrants either. 3? 100? 400? 1,000? How many tyrants does it take before you're suddenly okay with it? Because you're absolutely okay with it. You are absolutely okay with the existence of a parasitical, violent ruling class robbing the crap out of hundreds of millions of productive people and violently interfering in countless aspects of the lives of almost everybody. You absolutely are in favor of that. For you to pretend, well, we don't want a king, but we want some other weird thing, this collection of kings, or whatever we're going to call them, that violently dominates and robs people just the way a king would. But we're okay with that, because that's not a king. But we can't have a king. Well, I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret, and if you don't already know this, you can look it up in a history book. Kings, overall, have been far less destructive and less oppressive than democratically elected republics, or democracies, or constitutional republics, or any number of collections of people who pretend to represent the people. Those institutions, not the outright kings who just say, this guy's in charge, do what he says, those institutions have been far more murderous and destructive. Now, they're not any more moral than a king or any less moral than a king. They're both just ruling classes. Neither of them is legitimate. They're just two kinds of masters. But the irony is that you're complaining about a certain organization of authoritarian power that historically has done way, 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 way less damage and committed way less murder and oppression and terrorism and all manner of evil atrocity than the shape of authoritarian crap that you condone. This collectivist democratic bullshit. Soviet Union, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Have you ever read their constitution? Did you know they had a constitution? Probably didn't. Did you know the people of the Soviet Union were allowed to vote? And that their constitution talks about, we're just here for the people. All of our power is really, we're acting on behalf of the people. And you get to vote. And you get these rights. That was the Soviet Union's constitution. Did you know that existed? Probably not. Most Americans are ignorant as hell. How about the People's Republic of China? Communist China under Mao Zedong. The most murderous regime in the history of the world. They had a Bill of Rights. They let people vote. They didn't have a king. Mao wasn't a king. He was just a chairman. well, I guess if you put a different name on the worst mass murderer in the history of the world, then you leftists suddenly don't seem to have a problem with it. Because a lot of you are still making excuses for socialism/communism. Well, would you have had a complaint with Mao? Because he had the party. It wasn't just him. Yeah, he was at the top and could do anything he damn well pleased. But there was the party, and there were all these positions of power and this giant hierarchical authoritarian monstrosity that just destroyed countless lives and starved tens of millions of people to death. But it wasn't a king, at least not technically. They didn't call it that. Stalin, Lenin, they weren't kings. They were just some other thing. North Korea, well, okay, we call him a dictator. Okay, so we put a word on him that means he's bad. Okay, and he is bad. Power happy piece of crap. Does it matter what word you're using? Why are you objecting to one flavor of authoritarian domination, which is responsible for an absolutely minuscule percentage of historical injustice, which is monarchies? Now, they did lots of evil stuff. They are in no way legitimate or moral. They should not exist. Not arguing in favor of kings. I'm pointing out your complete frickin' hypocrisy if you think, oh, it's horrible to have a king, but a representative government that violently dominates and robs and oppresses people. Well, that's good. We consent to that, and they represent us, and this is democracy, and that's just as good as freedom, and yada, yada, yada. You still cheer for evil, so just shut the hell up about the no kings thing. You just want a different label on evil, so that when it uses violence to inflict your shitty ideas on the rest of the world, you can pretend that, oh, well, this doesn't count as tyranny, because there's like elections and there's votes and it's the people have spoken and, oh, wow, look at all these people being caged and robbed into poverty and all these businesses being destroyed. And but that's okay, because it was a representative government that did that. Here's an idea. Instead of complaining about kings, which is a subset of masters and ruling classes, how about no Masters Day? How about that? Why didn't we see that? Why wasn't there a mass-funded, orchestrated, organized set of protests that's no Masters Day? Because the people organizing it are your masters, and you want them to be, and you keep voting for them. You don't believe in freedom. If there had been a bunch of protests, we don't want any master, not a king, not a republic, not a democracy, not a parliament, not a dictatorship, not in anything. We are human beings, and each of us owns ourselves. We have the right to do whatever the hell we want if we're not harming somebody else. If we're attacking or robbing somebody else, then yeah, they have the right to defend themselves against us. But nobody is our rightful master. We are nobody's rightful slave. How hard is it to comprehend that? And about 0% of the people at these No King's Day protests even understand that or advocate that. They just advocate a different flavor of the violent domination and subjugation of humanity. Which makes me look at those protests and just go, it's meaningless. You're not principled whining at Trump. It's not that you're actually against authoritarian crap. You just want your guy and your party to be wielding the authoritarian crap. And they just were about 2 seconds ago, and you were making excuses for it. And you were condemning anybody who didn't go along with it. You just want grandma to die because you won't sit at home and let your business collapse and your life savings go away and let your life be ruined based on absolute made-up bullshit by power-happy lying sacks of crap like Fauci and Biden and the rest of those lying scumbags. You were okay with that. Not even okay with it. You were advocates of that. You were cheerleaders for that crap. And you were condemning the people who didn't go along with it. So, your No King's Day, just shut up. When you believe in freedom, get back to me. When you're ready to have a No Masters Day, cool, me too, I'll be there. I'll bring popcorn. I don't even like popcorn, but I'll bring you some popcorn the day you decide that you don't want masters over you or over anybody else. Until then, shut the hell up. None of your objections about Trump hold a shred of virtue or a shred of principle. You're not for freedom at all. You're just for a different flavor of slavery. So screw you. You wanted one flavor of immoral, violent domination. You got a slightly different flavor. You kind of deserved it. Yeah, you didn't get the jackboot you wanted. You got the right jackboot on your throat instead of the left jackboot on your throat. Screw you. You wanted a jackboot on your throat and on my throat and on the throats of 300 and some million other people. So shut the hell up with your protest against a certain injustice until you advocate actual freedom for everybody. Your protests are bullshit. They're hypocritical. They're just unprincipled noise and you pretending to be virtuous when you are nothing of the sort. Not in the slightest. And yeah, Trump is an absolute horrible scumbag. Power-happy piece of garbage. And so is everybody you vote for. When you're done advocating a ruler over me and everybody else, let me know. Until then, just shut the hell up. You're just being used as pawns by the worst people in the world. Feeling all virtuous, complaining about that particular guy. And then when this particular guy gets in, you make excuses for it. Which, by the way, is exactly what Trump supporters do. They will condemn the horrible things that Biden does and Obama does. And when Trump does it, they make excuses. Because guess what? All you Democrats out there complaining on No King's Day, you are Trumpites. You function exactly the way they do. You're authoritarian statists. You don't have a shred of principle. When evil is committed by your guy and your party, you look the other way, or you make excuses for it, or you cheer for it. Which is exactly what the Trumpites do in the other direction. You go out and protest, you might as well just put a mirror in front of yourself and scream at yourself, because that's you. You are arguing against people just as unprincipled and statist and anti-freedom as you, and you're too indoctrinated to see it. So yeah, when you're ready for no masters, let me know. And I will absolutely welcome you with open arms. The more people who actually choose the only moral choice, which is freedom and a stateless society, the better. Any day. You can drop it in a heartbeat. Forgive and forget, I'm ready to view you as somebody on my side. But for now, you're just a cheerleader for a very slightly different flavor of evil, while imagining yourself to be so much more virtuous and principled than those meanie Trumpites. You are the Trumpites and they are you. You both think the same way. You both function the same way. You're both duped by the same divide and conquer bullshit. You're both cheering against freedom.